Okay, cool. So recording has started. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm pleased to announce our guest this afternoon is going to be with the Santa Clara County Human Resource Department, Ben Sandoval. We will be interviewing and discussing the how-tos and the best practices in applying for the county positions, specifically within Santa Clara County. Some housekeeping rules. During this interview, everybody will be placed on mute. So please make sure to mute yourself when you're not speaking. If you are using the phone, just make sure that you're also muted on that phone as well. This way, we avoid as much of the audio interference as much as possible. It can become a nuisance, and it also kind of takes away a lot of the latency. You're welcome to join us on video as well. So if you have a video camera, you're welcome to present and use that video option. And we're also going to have a Q&A towards the end of the interview. So please, if you do have any questions, hold off for a minute. And then towards the end, you'll be able to have that opportunity to ask your questions. If you are online with us, you are welcome to type in your questions ahead of time in the chat box. And then, of course, we will go ahead and read them towards the end at the Q&A session. Most of the time, you'll end up getting those answers during the interview. So just keep that in mind. If you did type in a question in there, we'll probably won't read it out if it's been answered during the interview. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a recorded session. So, try to keep as much of PII or PHI as much as possible during this. So that way, we try to prevent any kind of personal identification being leaked. This will be posted into YouTube, so that's one reason why we need to avoid that as much as possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin the interview.
Wonderful. Thanks, Neoni. So my name is Amelia Gaitan-Reed. I work with Neoni over at VA Palo Alto as a community employment coordinator. And I'm going to go ahead and start the interview here with Ben. And Ben, could you please introduce yourself and let us know what it is that you do at the county? And maybe tell us a little bit about what the best thing about your job is.
Okay. So guys, hi everybody. I'm Ben Sandoval. I am a 9-year Army veteran myself, and with the County of Santa Clara, I'm a management analyst. That's a fancy way of saying that I pretty much do a lot of the management studies that you think go on behind the scenes, specifically in HR. I do a lot of the recruitment side of things and a lot of long-range classification studies. So if people think that they're improperly classified or they're working below their pay grade or above their pay grade, I kind of handle a lot of those studies as well. Mm-hmm. And what makes the county so, I would say, so unique and so good to work for is the fact that we're a huge organization. The fact that I believe Santa Clara County is the largest public sector employer in Northern California. We have over 20,000 positions in the county, and I would say about 2,000 of those are separate classifications. So within those 20,000 positions, there's 2,000 different classifications that people would be called. So that makes a lot of room for promotion and a lot of room for kind of directing your career path and planning out your career in the long.
Great, thank you for that answer. This is Ryan Bacon. I'm also a community employment coordinator with Neoni and Amelia, and I provide services down in primarily San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. So kind of piggybacking off of what you just said there, what's it like to work for the county of Santa Clara County? What's the culture like? What are the people like? And what are some of the challenges that come along with the job?
Okay. I'm sure most of you are familiar that the Bay Area is a very diverse population. Santa Clara County is no exception to that. And you can really see that in our super diverse just workforce. On top of that, on top of just being diverse, the populations we serve, so all of our publications are all put out in English, Spanish, and Thai and Vietnamese, just because of the population we have. And we're even moving a lot towards Hindi and a lot of the other smaller dialects, just because of the population we have. This is especially kind of crucial for our organization because we're so large. We have extremely large social services agency, which again services these more diverse, sometimes less, I should say, I'm sorry, excuse myself, uh, less privileged communities, to say the least. But the county is very diverse in that sense. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Let's just go to the next one.
No, no problem. How does one apply for a job at the county? And are there any types of jobs that you would like to kind of highlight during this interview?
So applying for the county now is much more unique than it was, let's say, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, where you still would come in and possibly fill out an application in paper. Now we're completely digital. I'm sure everybody's kind of used to that now in the COVID era, the digital era. But to do something like that, it'd be real simple to go to our website, which I'll actually share with you guys right now. Let me pull that up for you. So you can just go to the county's website, Santa Clara County, .gov, Santa Clara County. And then when you find there on that homepage, you'll have the option to click on employment opportunities, and that will actually take you to the Employee Services Agency homepage. Employee Services Agency is the agency that I work for. They're the ones who actually handle all the recruitments for the entire county. So the first step to getting into the county is coming to this homepage you guys see here. Here, there's lots of resources for people who are not familiar with anything about the county. Literally, every drop-down you see here, employee benefits, you can go and see what benefits are offered to all employees. There's even a job search toolkit, which is actually a very good resource to help you from applying, preparing to exams, and even some how to process applications that are not really common, like for instance, extra help. Say we don't have permanent positions, but a department needs a surgeon. They have a surgeon workload, and they need just a little bit of extra help for maybe 3 to 6 months. There's opportunities for those things kind of as well, and all of this right here kind of lays that out. But what I really want to take you to is the open competitive listing. So if you go to the job opportunities on our homepage and you click open competitive opportunities, it will take you to a list of every open job we're currently recruiting for. So right now, there's 70 jobs that we're recruiting for currently right now. That's a lot. You can see application developer, attorneys, everything from probably janitors to social services coordinators to program managers. The huge diversity. Yeah, hope that answered your questions.
Hey, Ben, this is Patty. I'm a coworker of Ben's. Can you show them the employment summary on the menu, top left? Just so they can see a running list right there. And then, you know, this will show you a lot. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries.
Wow.
And thank you for joining, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
So yeah, so as you can see, just these are the ones that are currently open right now. So if you want to just take a quick look without having to click on all of them, here's a quick listing. And then 3 pages worth.
Wow, that is a lot. So any of those that you guys kind of want to highlight the most as, you know, this is something that we've been trying to recruit for, or maybe not?
There are a number of super highly specialized positions in the county. So to say one is more prevalent than the other, kind of doing them injustice, but I'll give you a more common one. Let's try with a management analyst or an associate management analyst. So program managers, let's go with analyst actually. And I'll kind of, oh, these are just the open competitive ones. I'm sorry. Let me take you to what the actual, what a job, what we're looking for more or less when we're screening these applications. So let's say, let's go with an associate management analyst. So for this classification, let's make that a little bigger. Pretty much, so this is the entry level classification to what I do here. So the associate level just means it's more or less the training level. You come into the county, we will train you more or less the way the county works. and how to do your job efficiently as long as you meet the employment standards. And here's the most important part of all of our specifications. So this is how you would figure out if you qualified for the job position or not. So for the associate management analyst position, you can see here that well, the requirements for it are just a bachelor's degree. That might seem like a roadblock for some people, but we also allow for a lot of our bachelor's degree positions for relevant experience in analytical or administrative lead supervisory experience like these to be swapped on a year-for-year basis. So there's more than one way to get into the county depending on this. So we're looking for a bachelor's degree, but 4 years of experience doing analytical or administrative work or even managerial work, we will take that in lieu of a bachelor's degree, and same percent per year. So say you have an associate's degree and 2 years of relevant experience, you would pass this this standard, and kind of that's how you gauge if you're qualified for the job or not.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. That's really important detail right there. Thank you.
It is. Thank you for highlighting that for us, Patty. Thank you for joining in and yeah, helping out with that. Okay, so my next question, Ben, can you let us know a little bit about what the hiring process is like with the county of Santa Clara?
Yes. So the application process would start kind of where I showed you. You would find specifically a job that you're interested in or you believe you're qualified for. You'd click on that and the apply buttons. From there, it would pull up this if you haven't already made an account for the county on our job site, it would prompt you to make an account, filling in your normal administrative stuff, your name, date of birth, things like that. But once you finally actually get to the portion of filling the application out, you put in all your relevant job information. So the same things you would normally include on your resume, we ask for in the application. So it's not exactly necessary to include a resume. The resume is not going to help you get past the application process, but it is something that the hiring managers will potentially see and help you with. So, so once you fill out that application and submit all of your supplemental questions, it'll go to review, which will normally be an analyst like myself or Patty. We will make sure that you either pass the employment standards, and if not, we will tell you why you don't meet the employment standards, so you can improve that and come back next time if need be. And then from there, depending on the classification, if it's a class that requires an examination, say a written exam or an oral exam, something that's more technical, we would then test you all the passing candidates who made the employment standards, and then make the eligible list. And at that point, once the eligible list is made, you're going to get an email notification at every step in this process. So when you're accepted, you're going to get an email. When your application submitted, you're going to get an email. If you failed, you're going to get the email as to why you failed. When you're placed on the eligible list, you're going to be, hey, your name is now eligible to go to departments. And then lastly, when the hiring managers are actually given your name from that eligible list, you will receive the email telling you to call said department in the county within 3 days to verify that you're interested in the position. And then it's the interview process, a normal job interview process that most people are kind of used to. Interviews, offer, and then signing.
Wow, I can tell you're like super familiar with this. Thanks for going over that with us, Ben. You make it sound so easy. I like it. And the emails, the follow-up emails. Yeah. Yes. So that's great though that emails are sent out, right? It allows you to know where you stand as an applicant, which I think is great. Thanks.
It's also because in some senses the county, some people will say it's slower than the private sector. Some people who are possibly used to working for like Apple or big corporations where they can give you an offer the same day that they interview you and have no time before you're started. The county has a lot of processes and a lot of unions to work with. So we have a lot of set processes, and in some instances it could take 2 to 6 months to fill a position if the position is hard or important or it has a lot of requirements.
Makes sense. Thank you, Ben.
Can I add just a couple of things? Ben, you're doing an incredible job. The one thing that a good takeaway is after you've applied and you get a reject notice, which we have to tell people because their application I didn't have enough detail on it. They may be qualified, but we couldn't tell because they didn't either answer the supplemental questions or they didn't put it in their work history. Once you get a reject notice, you have usually 5 days to provide additional information, And after we review it, we find that you meet the qualifications, then you could be added to the recruitment, back into the recruitment. And even when I applied, if I got a reject notice, I kind of just walked away with my tail between my legs, right? So you kind of think, oh, even though they say you're rejected, it's kind of like, oh, you didn't meet the qualifications, but that's not an absolute no. It's just that the information that was provided was not complete or was not clear. So, and when Ben talked about some of the exams, a lot of the written exams are online now. They used to all be in person. We'd come in and fill out a Scantron, and it'd be multiple choice. A lot of our exams are still multiple choice. They're not easy to pass because they're asking analytical type questions or whatever that the job requires, administrative, that kind of question. But just to let people know, the written exams, a lot of them are multiple choice. So, and you could study for that by reading through the job specification. Whatever's on that job specification, whatever those tasks are, whatever the analytical abilities are that we need, or knowledge and other abilities, that's what we're going to test on. We're only allowed to test what's based on the job specification, as Ben mentioned.
Okay, that makes sense. So like a way to check on the experience, right? If you don't have a degree.
Right.
But all right, thanks. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you both. That's really good information.
It is.
So it sounds like following up with some of that, it sounds like there's not a resume requirement, but is there a structure to the application, or do they all kind of have some differences as far as the application goes for one to successfully apply for the job?
Okay. So yeah, like you've touched on, and like I've touched on, we don't require a resume to be submitted with your application. The cool thing about our process is that your application will be saved in the system for you. So say that you're interested in applying for more than just one job position on the county at a time. So you can fill in your application. It'll save all the relevant details for the countywide information. So just your obvious personal information, you're interested in full-time or those kind of positions, things like that. But what's unique to every position will be the supplemental questions that accompany the application at the end. So the first maybe 10 questions that you're presented with on your application will all be the same, but it's the ones that follow that will be more specific and tailored to that specific the job you're applying for. So it helps save time in the fact that your application is saved in the system and you don't have to recreate it every single time. You could go in and purposely beef up some of your experiences in an area that is relevant to the job you're applying for. Makes it easier that way. But again, the resume is not required, but it could be helpful, especially if it's a position where your writing is more under under judgment or review by your supervisors, where a hiring manager or a director would want to see kind of some of your cover letters or resume itself.
So it's not going to hurt in
It's
most
not going to hurt at all.
cases.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that information, Ben. The population that we serve are all veterans at this time. So are there any veteran hiring preferences, and do they apply for all positions within the county?
So yes, the county does offer veteran preferences. The only stipulation of that is we only apply them to examinations, to applications and examinations that require a written or oral examination. So if you're applying for a job that say doesn't have a written exam, we don't have a way to factor in those additional points we would give you. But say for example, let's use the associate management analyst position again. That's a position that requires all incumbents to pass the analyst exam for that. And let's say that that you pass the exam with a score of 80%, and out of 50 people that are on the passing list, the top score is a 97 and the bottom is a 70. So you're most likely in the middle of the group, but not the top 10. But now let's say you're a veteran now. So if we verify that by your GD 214 or what other verification information you attach to your application, that's 5 percentage points we add to your score. So now you move up from an 80 to an 85. So now you're a little more competitive. But now let's say you're a disabled veteran, that's an extra 5 additional points. So that'll bump you up now to the 90 and let's say the top score was a 97. So now you have a much better chance of being in that top 10%. Which really wouldn't matter if there's lots of positions, but when it comes down to say job postings where there's only one opening, that comes down to factoring when we're only allowed to send a certain amount of names for hiring to hiring managers, depending on how many openings they have. So the higher you are ranked overall, the better off you're going to be, the more likely you are to have multiple offers or multiple interviews, I should say.
That makes sense. It's almost similar to kind of like how the state is doing their process as well. And I think the VA or federal system does somewhat the similar way. Cool. Thank you.
And what I'll add is I know I forgot to add my DD-214, so I didn't claim my veterans points. So don't forget to do that, guys. If you are going to apply, make sure you attach your DD-214. I checked the box, but I forgot to actually attach it. So make sure you attach it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Okay, so I actually have a two-parter for you. Go off with the first part of the question. How structured is the interview?
Are you talking about hiring interviews? How structured would they be?
Yeah, how structured would the hiring interview be?
So we give the departments and the hiring managers themselves a lot of leeway in how they conduct their hiring interviews. Some hiring interviews may be done completely remotely nowadays. Some may be in person. Some may have 2 or 3 interviews. But what we try to do is steer them away from questions that we've already kind of verified in the application. But we also allow them to ask questions that are more subjective, more not so much that we could verify by their application. So the application, the supplemental questions will ask her like, hey, do you have, this experience? And then now please describe this experience, more or less things that we can gauge, we can full on rate. Yes, they have it or they don't. But some of the skills required are more communication based or interpersonal skill based. And sometimes those are better interview questions. And those aren't really, a proper yes or no answer. So it's hard to say. There is no structured form like we require them to have these set questions. So your best bet is to just be prepared with normal interview questions like what interests you in this department? Why do you want this position? Those are the safe bet questions.
And to add, the one thing about, because we're kind of overseen by merit system rules based on the county ordinances and the union. All the interview questions are predetermined by the hiring department or managers, and every single applicant is asked the exact same question in the exact same order. And there's a panel of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 people, whoever's going to be on that interview panel, and they ask it exactly the same for every candidate, and they take notes on that. So those notes are gathered by the analyst, myself or Ben or whoever, and we make sure that the rating process, how they're scored, is fair and equitable and justifiable, so that somebody's not rating somebody a 10, and then really that's like everybody else rated them a 5. Ben or I would say, well, what made that person? So usually you kind of have to, we review that kind of information to make sure everything was fair and equitable, because we are a transparent organization. It's public agency, and everything that we do is basically discoverable. We have to be able to justify why we made a selection and why we didn't select somebody, but it's always based on a job related skill or ability. It can't be, or if they didn't answer the questions or they were unable to articulate, we would say did not articulate, unable to provide information. Even though they may be qualified, they didn't perform well in the interview. In the interview, at that point, if there's 10 people that are going to be interviewed or 20, the interview is starting over again. That starts the scale again. You've made it to the interview, you've passed the test, and now you have to be able to perform on the interview. And if you don't do well, and you may be more qualified than somebody else, the other person may get the position because they were able to answer the questions and show whatever the abilities they are, whether it's leadership, organization, or being articulate, that kind of a thing. So all those are considered.
Thank you, Patty, for that. And then let me go ahead and ask the second part of our question here. Are there examples of behavioral questions that our veterans can like sample or take a look at that you guys have access to maybe somewhere on the website? Or just any kind of questions really besides behavioral?
Yes, I don't believe we have any sample questions, but a good place to start again would be that that job search toolkit. It has a lot of the preparatory things like that. A lot of the oral exam information might apply to some of the interview stuff. A lot of people mistake oral exams for interviews. They're not. But a lot of the preparation for oral exams would be fair to say would be used to good for a personal interview.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And they're open-ended. Like a basic one would be, tell us a situation or a time where you had a difficult situation and explain how you resolved it and addressed it, if that's pertinent to the position. Or they would ask, whatever other open-ended, the basic interview questions of
like
explain versus a yes and no, but they are open-ended, mostly the basic ones. But if it has to do with a park ranger or say a sheriff's department, they would ask questions specifically about some of those skill sets that you're looking for. And the job specs, the job descriptions are written pretty much in the same order. There's a distinguishing characteristics, there's a description, there's tasks that they do, and then there's another part that says knowledge and abilities. If they're going to hone in on something about what we're going to ask, it's probably listed under those knowledge and abilities. That's kind of what the whole crux of the position does. That's kind of the reason why we're trying to hire somebody with those skill sets.
Makes sense. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah, very good information there from both of you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what is the best way to follow up regarding the job status or possible interview status?
Okay.
Or potential applicants? Go ahead. Thank you.
All right. So like we mentioned, you should be getting notified about just about every step of the way. But in case you don't, there are the easiest way to do it is to look at who the point of contacts are. Your emails are going to tell you who you should respond to if you don't have confirmation or anybody responding to you. And a lot of the times it's going to be the analyst responsible for that recruitment. Depending on the classification, the email will say hey, any questions can be referred to to Ben Sandoval or to Patty Hubel, things like that. But once it comes down to actually referring your name out to the hiring manager, so once you get that email that says your name has been referred to, Department of, Veterans Health, Veteran Services Department in, in the County of Santa Clara, that's when you would actually start contacting them, where they would become your POC, because they're the ones who are going to be managing your interviews and things like that, where the analyst doesn't have access to when your interview is going to be, kind of what times you have scheduled for it. So that's when kind of you would switch point of contacts.
Great, thank you again.
And then the next question, what types of background investigations does the county perform, if any?
Okay, so like we know, the county is a public organization. The majority of all positions will have to go through a normal criminal conviction history questionnaire, which is just a normal kind of just a kickback to see anything above felonious or bad level things in the last, I think it's like 7 years. So it's just your normal standard government background, his local checks. But for a lot of positions in the county, especially since we have a social services agency and a lot of positions that are public trust, we have many positions that also require a live scan. So when you're applying for the position, it'll actually tell you right there what you're going to be required, special requirements. These positions require fingerprinting and live scan, those like that. But to be safe, it's mostly all of our social services that require that extra level of clearance, and a lot of the sheriff and public trust positions like that.
Officers go through their own background, a more in depth, like a polygraph maybe. And with the sheriff's department, there's probably another layer, a couple of layers.
So they do a polygraph test for some of the sheriff's department's positions?
I think they did. I don't know if they still do because I don't
Oh.
oversee that department. I don't know if Ben knows
Uh-huh.
or not, but I know that they do a much deeper dive, just like a regular peace
Yeah, I know
officer.
they have a psychological eval too, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure for the polygraph. We have an analyst who's just dedicated to sheriff's
Right.
department. So yeah.
I don't know if they're still doing polygraph.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay, I had like pictures of like, movie scenes kind of pop into my head. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. But anyway, thank you for answering my question. But and thanks for answering the first part of the question. Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You had mentioned some promotion opportunities as well. So that kind of leads to our next question, which is how does the career progression work within the county?
All right, good question. So, like I've mentioned, there's thousands of positions in the county. And the cool thing about these thousands of positions, a lot of them are alternately staffed. So when you enter, there's many ways to promote. So I'm going to talk about one of the ways first. It's called alternate staffing. So a position like a management analyst position, excuse me, that position is staffed all the way from the training level up to kind of a senior, more advanced level. So you can enter that same position you came in at the county, with almost no experience, as long as you meet the employment standard, and then kind of gain proficiency and then be promoted to the next step in that classification. And then even further along, get promoted into, kind of the senior step where you're more or less training and leading more people junior to you. So that's one way of being promoted and progressing through the county. But the other way is also through transfers and to just straight open competitive or other listings. So once you kind of get into the county, you start understanding how it works. You can start seeing like, okay, once I have this amount of experience, I can apply for these positions here. And that's more or less one of the first things a lot of people kind of tend to do when they enter the county is to look and see kind of, hey, where do I want to go in 10, 15 years? Do I want to be in this department? Do I want to move to another department? Do I want to start working on these skills to get where I want to be? Do I want to become a program manager? The possibilities are endless. And because of that, because the county has all these possibilities, we also have these merit system rules that we have to follow. So sometimes that you may be qualified for your position that you are in now, and you want to transfer to a position that you think you are qualified for, but it makes substantially more than what you make now. There might be some stipulation as if you can transfer to that position based on your current salary bands. So there's a little bit of restriction there, but other than that, there are almost limitless options to progress in the county.
And I'm going to just add a quick 2 cents here. So any employee can apply for an open competitively posted worldwide position, like what we post on the internet. And then once you get hired in, you can then transfer to other positions if you're within, maybe let's, for example, 15% of your salary band. And then the other way to get promoted is you can actually not be restricted by your transfer band, and you could actually apply once you're in the county for promotional opportunities. So between transfer and promotions, they can apply for those once they're hired. But even if they don't qualify as far as transfer band, any employee, external or internal, can apply for the open competitive positions. And they're all handled just a little bit differently. It's, pretty much as far as screening, yes, but there are opportunities because of the merit system rules and all of our agreements with the unions. Certain classifications have certain restrictions, and if anything, it's actually a wider net. And the last thing I wanted to add, I know there's probably a time restriction, but we encourage people, the best and brightest, like Ben, he's moved up very quickly, which is awesome. But the best employees, they usually move up very quickly, and it's like you say, oh gosh, they're leaving, but they actually really encourage employees to transfer. That they're going to transfer up and out and maybe come back at a different level and up and out. So you'll see people moving around every year and just move right up into different positions. And then there's even a stipulation that if they wanted to revert back to their old position, they're allowed to do that. So there's no negative side to promoting up and out and then trying it out and then maybe not either liking it or them maybe not thinking the person's as qualified as they need to be, then they can go back. So that's kind of the wonderful thing about the county is we don't want to lose anybody once we get them to the private sector. We're competing with all these other jobs in Silicon Valley and all these other jobs throughout the, Santa Clara County region. So promoting up and inside and transferring it's constantly we have movement, domino effect constantly, which we are used to now. It was frustrating at first coming in from the private sector, probably then too, but now we're realizing it's a great opportunity county once they're there.
Thank you. Yeah. So Ben, Army lead the way, man. That's why we're the best and the brightest. Sorry for the Navy and Marine Corps folks, and let's not forget the Air Force and the Coasties as well. But thank you so much for that.
Not everyone can be Army.
I love it.
Well, thank you both very much for all the information, Patty and Ben. A lot of good advice and a lot of guidance that you guys have provided. So last question here. What advice would you give to our veterans, specifically our veterans, when applying for positions within the county?
So the advice I would give, first, make sure your DD 214 or your certificate of service is attached to your application. And then don't be discouraged. Learn from. We all have that learn from our mistakes mentality. Same with the county. If at first you don't succeed with your first application, learn from what you have. Ask the analyst why you failed. A lot of the times they'll work with you to like, hey, here's what you need to verify next time. You need to add more here, or you need more experience in here, just period. And that's kind of the best thing to do. Just don't be discouraged. There's tons of opportunity.
Right.
I think you might be on mute, Patty.
Okay, don't give up. I have to get this job, and I had 30 years of experience. So, and some of the people that are already in HR or doing whatever they're doing take the test 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times. We don't know how many times somebody takes the test, and they finally passed, and they started moving up. And just bullet point, one of the biggest things, and I know Ben's going to appreciate this, if you're going to bullet point your skills in your work history section on your application, and also answer the questions and bullet point that, make it as easy as possible for us to read that information. That's our biggest thing, because we screen 1,000 apps a week sometimes. So it's that, instead of reading a paragraph and we're required to search for all that experience that we're trying to see if it applies. It's much harder on us. And if anything, you might get rejected because we can't tell what you have, even though you might be qualified because you didn't maybe bullet point it. You don't have to bullet point it, but make it clear. But don't give up. 1.5 years to get this job, and other people took the test 5 times, and don't give up. And a lot of our director and our managers and deputy county executives, they started as clerks, receptionists, maybe even a janitor. And they just moved up after 10 years, 5 years, they moved right up. Our janitor classification and our account clerks and our office specialists, our directors started at some of those levels, and now they're directors and managers. And it's a very younger county population. Some of our managers are 30, 35, 40. And a lot of the people, the baby boomers, just by sheer sake of it's 2021, they're retiring at age 55, 50, because we have a really good retirement plan. A lot of our managers are in their 30s. It's a very young, dynamic, progressive, positive, supportive environment, unlike what people think of the county. We're not a bunch of old curmudgeons anymore. It's a really dynamic company or agency.
It's a different form of public service, guys.
It is. It's fabulous. It's a great place to work. We have great benefits, great salary too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And it really just kind of like it speaks in volume in terms of like I know within our participants right now, we have a lot of case managers here. And correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. I know that we try to teach, targeting a resume. So you literally just spoke volumes of that, like to target your resume for that position, bullet it in the point that, it makes it easier for you guys to find the information that you're looking for. So thank you so much. So let's go ahead and move over to our Q&A session. I do have a couple of questions that came in on the in the chat box. They both came from Jeanette Sanchez. So the first one's going to be, are candidates able to appeal a decision if they are informed they do not meet their employment standards?
So yeah, I think Patty kind of mentioned this a little bit, but yes, once you really receive that like notice that you didn't meet the employment standard, it's not the end of your journey entirely. So you have 5 days to reach out to the analyst and ask them, hey, can you explain to me why I didn't pass? And they'll explain to you like, hey, especially if it was like you don't have enough experience in X Y Z, or you just didn't write your experience to make it seem like you actually know what you're doing. Can you better present your experience, to justify it, things like that. Or some of it might just be education, and in that case it's kind of hard for us to kind of work with you.
Awesome. And then the follow up, another question from Jeanette is, if a veteran is a county employee and they are applying and taking an exam for a different position, will they be able to use the vet preference points more than once?
Yes. So anytime you take a written examination, or an examination period, I should say, not just written, anytime that we actually have an examination where you are given a score, we can apply those veterans preference points to it. So that could be, yeah, there's countless positions. Could be, like I said, writtens, orals, might even be performance exams, but those are very, very rare.
Awesome. And then I have two other questions from Leon. The first one is there, um, I'm sorry, it just kind of skipped out here. Is there a temp to perm hiring program within the county?
I'm sorry. Yes, there's a couple of actual temporary to permanent hiring programs in the county. Some of them are through, let's say, like CalWorks, like people who are actually taking social services or using social services with the county. There's a program we have to help them pathway to permanency. There's also a lot of our clerical positions. Have stipulations written in them that hey, if we brought you on for these unclassified or these non-permanent positions, there are paths to getting you into permanent positions, and veterans are allowed to participate in these programs. Now, for a specifically just veteran program, I don't think we have one of those yet, but I know Patty and myself have been talking about trying to reach out specifically to target more veterans. It's only a matter of time, maybe, until Veteran Services kind of tries to make a mirror program, kind of something like we have in Cal West and the foster youth programs, but not as of yet.
That's pretty cool. Again, Ben Army leading the way. So that's really awesome. A follow-up question to that as well. Is there a work study program for students? And I'm going to add in internship in that as well too.
Actually, yes, and Patty is on that team. So yeah, that's why she's actually here. I worked with that senior for a long time. I know a lot of people on that team. That's kind of why I reached out to them and said, hey, I can fill this one only because I'm a veteran and I know veteran people, maybe just a little bit, but but yeah, there are. Yes. What was the question again? I'm sorry, I got off track.
No problem. So is there a work study program?
Yes.
And I'm going to include internship in there for students.
Yes, there are. I'll let actually Patty answer this one because she actually knows that program inside and out.
Yes, so we actually can employ high school students, but for veterans specifically, if they're in their freshman year, sophomore, junior, or senior year, depending on which level that they're in, and they are currently attending classes and they're showing current, transcripts and also the future enrollment, then I mean, I think some of those pay rates start at about $20 an hour, going all the way up to $30 an hour, and that's an awesome salary to work part-time because you can't work full-time because you're a student, or maybe you can maybe work 30 hours if you're going to night school. But it's a great way to go in and try to find a department that you want to work in, or just say any department. And usually a department will say, I need somebody with a business administration major or a environmental studies major, or have one that's an entomology major for the agriculture, studying of insects, or I need somebody with Parks and Recs. I need somebody with environmental science, or English, or some type of writing. So that's a great way if the veteran's going to school and also working part-time or just going to school full-time because they have that benefit still. It's a great way to get your foot in the door and to be able to try out different departments. So if they want to apply for that, and if they get rejected and they find out why aren't I eligible for the student intern program, we can tell them. But there is a link, and I don't know if Ben can share it or not. If you go to the Santa Clara County website and you put in student internship program, the entire program is in there, how to apply, what to turn in, and so forth. Great way to get your foot in the door, as well as I think Ben might have mentioned this. We have temporary jobs and some full-time, part-time. They're called extra help for our agency. It's considered extra help. And like with the elections coming up, we probably hired 500 extra help people because we had a huge surge in needs. We train them and they go out and they work extra help. Some people come back year after year and do that, because they like doing that kind of work. So they could always try to get out on extra help if they can, if they have the time to work full-time or part-time on that.
Great. I would really like to link up with you guys once you get that solidified as far as the internship, more specifically the work study program for veterans, because VBA has a program just like that. And I work with them pretty closely about getting some people into, some work study opportunity. Like we hire work study students within our system as well. So I would love to link up with you guys for that.
I'm actually VA work study, and I actually used the VBA, the benefits.
Nice. That's a lot of us, like myself, for example, that's actually how I got started into the VA system. Was I came in as a work study student, so I know exactly how fruitful that can be. I have one last question from Leon. Can you can you job can you job carve for mental health applicants that may need a job coach? I know, Leon, that you're on the line. If you can kind of explain that a little bit, if you're able to.
Okay, hello guys. Leon Hudgens. I'm an Air Force veteran, so no jokes. Um, I work with the VA's compensated work therapy program, and we have three services. One of the services is for mentally impaired veterans, and sometimes they need like to be handheld uh, to help them find a job. They may even need to be coached on how to do the job. So I'm wondering if there is some kind of program where we can job carve. For example, you may not have a position that's posted with the county, but we can create one, like someone to go around, I don't know, cleaning up the parking lot, picking up trash around the building, or any number of things that we can be creative to carve for a veteran with severe mental impairments. And again, these veterans are pretty successful once they once they are able to manage their medication, and then they get the constant case management from one of our staff. So just wondering about job carving, being creative to create a position for someone.
That's a unique one that I have to bring to management. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about like any kind of programs like this in the past, but I'm sure that just because we have a large organization, I'm sure social services probably has something that could accommodate this, but I don't want to speak out of turn before I verify.
Okay.
The only thing that I would add is because we are, we call it the merit system rules and our kind of our policies and procedures Bible, pretty much, is right now we don't probably have, they can probably qualify for positions, but if they have to meet the job specification and standards, that's the minimum. So if they do meet that and they do show that on their application, but yet maybe everybody goes through a 6 or 9 month probation. I don't know of anyone anywhere now that they would have I don't think they have the manpower to provide one-on-one training. But then Ben could definitely look into it. Something that maybe we should be looking into, going forward. But
And actually, the CWT case managers can job coach if I think we can take a good amount of time to do that to help the veteran, and also we can apply with the Department of Rehabilitation, who has job coaches. But
Okay.
anyway,
So,
just
so Leon, I think what you're really referring to is then it would be like a special accommodation for them.
yes.
We do
So
that.
that'd be something that we would look more into. Like that's something that's more in our lane. Would be looking for a special accommodation for this, and
Okay.
that's something I can bring up with management.
Okay. And so I can reach out to Patty and or you, Ben, to discuss this more, or how
Yes.
is it on the website or?
Yeah, you could probably reach out to myself or Patty, and because
Okay.
we're gonna have to reach out to our management in regards to this too.
I'm gonna friend you guys on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't think it's called friends, but you know what I mean.
That was a great question,
I
though.
think I have
Thanks,
silver
Leon.
hair in mine, so it's a guy with silver hair in my picture.
All right.
And I'll definitely I'll give them your point of contact information, Patty and Ben, to the CWT team after this as well. So I have another question, and this is coming from Marissa Aranda, and she's an employment specialist with the SSVF program. Her first question is for the applicant question, or for the application question. What is the preferred length for experience questions and scenario questions?
Can you, yeah.
If Marissa, if you are able to unmute yourself, if you can, please kind of explain that a little bit.
Hi, yeah, sorry if there's background noise, but I was wondering because I helped a couple of veterans fill out this application part, and I know that bullet points was mentioned, but I have some who want to write like a whole summary or like 3 paragraphs explaining their work experience. So I was wondering, since you said you do review over like 100 applicants, what is like the preferred length that you would prefer when like reviewing these applications?
Either is fine. Either
Yeah.
way is fine. But we just have, and we were forced to read those. It's fine because our job is to see if they meet this job specs, the standards. So however they want to do it is fine.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like if 5, 10 paragraphs is getting excessive, but I would say like 1 to 3 is fair per little descript per job experience section. I see you said you've helped them, so like each section, each application has like a work experience. You know what job and the job before that. I would say about a paragraph to 3 is fair to fully flush out what your experiences were.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Answer the question in a paragraph and explain specifically in detail what the answer is. But if they then list what they're, cut and paste from their work history, don't just cut and paste and then not answer the question. Definitely provide the answer and then say these are the qualifications. That helps.
Yeah. To clarify, we would much rather have them like take the effort to write like a single paragraph than have them copy and paste the same paragraph over and over again. So if they just honestly give the effort to give, a paragraph, the bare minimum of each one, that's fine. But if they're going to give us more, that's perfect. But yeah, but the copy and pasting is what really hurts applications.
Right. If you answer the question, each of those questions, say there's 10 questions and we take 5 of those questions, we assign points to those questions. So if you answer the question thoroughly, we might give you 5 points. If somebody else doesn't, they get 0 points. And then we create a list of rankings, and the people that score the highest are the ones that are on the top of the list, and those are the ones that are referred to the interview. So even if you're qualified and you don't do well on answering the questions, you might get 0 points for your answers. You're qualified, you're on the list, you're not at the top of the list. You're not going to get the interview, even though you're maybe more qualified. And if you say see resume, that's an automatic rejection. Just say it says on there your application will be rejected. Will be considered incomplete, and then we'll reject it for being incomplete or not enough information.
That is great advice, because a lot of people would want to take the shortcut. So copy and paste in your guys' perspective is a no-go. So really just don't do it.
If there's 5 different questions, and Ben could show it on the screen, tell us about your work experience, analytical, tell us about your supervisory experience, tell us your management experience and human resources. And if they just cut and paste from their work history and just plop that in there, they're not answering the question. And so if we were to rate the information and give them points, they may get 1 or 2 points versus somebody saying, I oversaw this and I did this, I performed this, I developed this, So it says in our application, every single one, then the first supplemental question that we ask Ben and all analysts use is the same question is, please understand that these questions and these answers may be used in a competitive rating. And we put it in bold and black and white, and a lot of people put C resume. Like, oh,
Yeah, man, I'm sure that can get pretty frustrating too, especially it's like they could have qualified for that job. So,
Well, Ben and I still will go searching for 20
We'll look
minutes
for it,
with
yeah.
all the experience.
Yeah,
We'll
but
still,
but when
we'll
we have
still
30
pass them.
seconds,
We'll pass them. They'll be on the list. And then when we go to put them on a ranking and we're giving points, it's like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Some of the most highly qualified people got low scores or lower on the list. They may not have made it. If there's 12 people on a list and we're only sending 10 names, those bottom two, even though they're highly qualified, may not make it to the interview panel.
yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, that's really crucial. I have another follow-up question from Marissa, and I'm going to quote it as her. I have a veteran who do get discouraged to submit a follow-up summary to explain why they qualify because they fear it will show on the application and follow them throughout the hiring process. Is that true?
no, so I guess she was saying like an applicant was denied, and then they were afraid that rebutting it would follow their application. No, that's not the case. The only thing that like rebutting can really only actually like help your application. It really doesn't hurt your application. So if you provide information that so let me start from the beginning. So as the analyst, I could see all the times you've applied for any job position if I want to. So when I'm looking at your application and I'm having like a trouble verifying that you passed this the employment standards for this position, a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll go look back and see if another analyst kind of evaluated you on the same job or another similar position, and I'll see what they did, and I'll kind of confer with them. It's like, hey, what did you see here? So that's kind of where if you rebut that and the other analyst has that proof that like, oh no, they provide me with this, that's only going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. And a lot of the times, if you do provide that information, we can see that like, oh, hey, they were rejected initially because the same thing, but they verified it. Or the analyst can put that into your notes that like, hey, they passed because of this with the attachment. So it only helps you.
I think it's a positive because if somebody's going back and taking the effort, providing the information and asking me, what else do you need? They're really serious. They're really showing that they're really interested in that position, and not that they're being unfair to us or themselves. They are actually trying to provide as much information and really, really sometimes when they're not qualified, we have to kind of let them down easier because like, I'm so sorry, unfortunately, you don't qualify because you don't have the 2 years of clerical experience. And they'll say, but I worked at the, wherever. And then we say, but unfortunately, that's not the experience that qualifies you. And so I don't mind dealing with people that are, we don't mind ever dealing with anybody that is sending in more information and then asking, 2 or 3 times, is this still not enough? Why don't I qualify? That's okay. That's part of our job, and then Ben's probably had this. I've had people call me, email me a year later. I got a job. I finally got in. Thanks for your help. It's great. It's a good feeling,
And then it looks like I got one last question from the chat box. It's coming from our fellow Marine, Ryan. So some of our veterans, they do have difficulties in access to technology. So you had mentioned that the exams are conducted online. Are there any reasonable accommodations for those that don't have access to technology?
Yeah, so there are reasonable. We do provide reasonable accommodations for things like that. Technology wise, I'm sure you could probably, if you had to, online testing, you could come to the 8th floor. We have our HRAs, they oversee testing in a more private environment than group testing. And I'm sure they could probably accommodate an online testing there.
We do. We conduct tests. Anybody who can't take it online, doesn't have access to a laptop or internet. We've always done them in person until
And you
COVID.
can you can apply on in person, well, not in person, but use our computers to apply for jobs as well.
And we never, ever, ever wanted to go online testing because our tests, we have to lock them down. We can't have anybody steal a test or be on a camera videotaping us. It took an act of God to get that thing online. And now that it's online, we're like, oh, this is great. You know, we fought it. It's like we did in-person Scantron testing for what, 30 years, huh, Ben? 40
Up
years.
until last summer.
Yeah, and we switched. All of us were running around with our heads cut off trying to switch to online. For some classifications, most of them, 90% worked great. But for example, we were park ranger or somebody out in the field, road maintenance, nor are they on the computer. They're doing some other physical job. So we went back to in-person testing with a Scantron and a piece of paper. They don't need to have that. They don't need to have access to a computer so much. So we did accommodate that. We did find there's some negative to that. So we accommodated that. If you're asking for a specific reasonable accommodation that somebody either couldn't type or needed some voice recognition, something that Ben and I should bring up and address. If there is something that a job that would qualify, we might have to get that type of voice recognition. Maybe, Ben, we should kind of look at that.
Okay. So that pretty much ends the questions that I got in the chat box. I'd like to open this up to the folks that are on the phone, or for those that's online with us, to unmute yourself if you have any questions that you would like to ask at this time.
No such thing as a dumb question. Seriously.
Mhm.
This is all about you guys. We're here for you.
Well,
Thanks,
mine's,
Patty.
or go ahead. Mine's more of a comment. Well, thank you for having this. I do have a lot of clients who go from a bunch of industries that we do send them job leads for the county. So this is going to help me assist my clients as they apply on what to look for, like the toolkit, and make sure that they don't copy and paste their resume, just those little tricks that I wasn't necessarily given every single time to them. But like just getting down to the nitty gritty might at least help them get to the examination portion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they can always reach out to the analyst who's doing their recruitment. They'll make time for them. They have to. So yeah, they're always up for a question or two.
I'd like to have more information about your internships or work study. How is there like a section of your website that I could go into?
If you log on to SECjobs.gov or .org, and you just type in student internship in the search, the whole section, you'll click on student internship, and you can click on that and what qualifies. Basically, number of units completed, freshman, sophomore, and then turn in your transcripts and make sure you're currently enrolled in classes now, or let's say if it's summer break like it is now, make sure that you show enrollment for classes in the fall. And we ask you to recertify at the end of every quarter, turn in your transcript. You have to maintain a 2.5 GPA at all times in order to be eligible to be a student intern for the County of Santa Clara.
So here's the student intern page right here.
Thank you, Ben.
So you just come,
Yes, thank you.
the main drop down,
Yep.
and then down to the student internship program, which brings you here.
There I am.
And it'll tell you what level, whatever level you're at, whatever class you're in, excuse me, year you're in, would correspond to the student intern level you would apply for.
Oh, hey, while you're there, Ben, can you go to the basic salary plan? So if you want to know how much you're earning on any job, because there's 2,500, go up to the right. See right there, it says basic salary. This is A through Z, every single job that we have. And like open up, can you increase the font on that? So if let's say you were an account clerk 1, that's the first hourly step when you start. That's the biweekly pay, and that's the monthly pay. So that's step 1 to step 5. So you can see starting pay for all our job classifications. And then if you were to look for student intern, it'd be down there as well, or but this is a nice way to see everybody A to Z quickly and their salary. And then you can go to the job specs and look them up. So there I am. Look at that. $20 an hour, $24 an hour, $30 an hour. That's awesome. Or even down to $15 an hour for student interns. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door.
Wow, actually, that pays a lot more than what VA work study program is offering. So please let us link up together.
Send them over.
Yes.
Is there any other questions from the audience that would like to ask Ben and Patty? All right, so I'm just all right, so because of time, if there are any follow-up questions that you guys might have, you can always contact me directly, and then I'll refer that back over to Patty and Ben. Ben, Patty, thank you so much for doing this with us. As you can see, we do have a lot of case managers as well as a couple of veterans that are looking for employment. We're all here to serve one population. And again, you know, Army's leading the way. So, you know, thank you so much for doing this. It definitely opened up a lot of different perspective for myself because I do serve this region, and we hope to link together and then and collaborate again in the future. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I told this to Ben, we had this passionate talk a year ago. Military, all the branches of the military, you guys are highly trained and you have huge leadership skills. You have the ability to learn and work under stress. You have the ability to follow instructions. You guys make awesome employees. That's all I'm going to say. I'm Army brat, 30 years. I feel like I was in the military for 30 years because my dad, Master Sergeant, retired 30 years. I feel like I was in the Army. I told Ben for 30 years. I had inspection every Sunday, so I get it, you know. So anyway.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Amelia and Ryan, did you guys have anything as far as closing?
I'd just like to say thank you for saying that, Patty. I definitely agree. I know that it can be difficult to translate that military experience into civilian language in order to be able to put it on applications, right, for the county here and resumes. But there is help out there for the veterans that are on the line. Reach out to us. Let us know if you guys are needing assistance with making those translations. But yes, I definitely agree. Veterans are prepared. They're trained to do this kind of stuff. We just do it every day, and we don't realize that it's something that's valuable that we should be putting down on resumes. But there's help out there, so reach out. Thank you all so much for meeting with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Every 4 to 5 years in serving in the armed services is like another degree. You guys have more education than most of the people, most civilians. I really believe that, and it's an untapped resource. So I think you guys are highly skilled. So all public agencies would love to have veterans. I think, you know, and I really do. I think you guys, it's a perfect match.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your support. Cool. I don't want to take any more of you guys' time. Thank you again. We'll collaborate again in the future, and I'll definitely link up with you, Patty, and Ben with the whole work study program. Cool. So thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and end the recording, and we'll speak to you guys soon.
All right. Yes. Have a good day.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ben.
Have a good
Thank you,
weekend.
guys.
Yeah.